What would you do for love? Would you cross deserts, survive hunger, face ruthless traffickers, and risk your life on the deadly donkey route just to see the person you love again? This is the heartbreaking story of Tano, a young man from a small African village who refused to give up on the girl who was taken away to America. Alongside 4 loyal friends, he begins a dangerous journey filled with betrayal, sacrifice, and unimaginable suffering. But when one shocking betrayal threatens everything, Tano must make a choice that changes every life forever. Stay until the end, because this story will break your heart.
Tano lived in a quiet African village surrounded by wide fields, dusty roads, and towering trees. Life was simple there, but every day felt meaningful because the people shared strong bonds. Among the villagers were 5 inseparable friends: Tano, Biko, Kato, Juma, and Sefu. Had grown together since childhood, sharing dreams, struggles, laughter, and countless adventures across the countryside. While the others dreamt about building families and businesses, Tano carried a different dream inside his heart. That dream had a name, and her name was Zina. Zina was kind, hardworking, and admired throughout the village. She and Tano had known each other since childhood, and their friendship slowly became a deep and beautiful love. The villagers often smiled whenever they saw them together. Everyone believed their story would end with marriage, children, and a peaceful life beneath familiar skies. But one person strongly opposed their relationship. That person was Mako, Zina's father, a wealthy and strict man who demanded complete control over her future. Mako believed the village offered nothing but poverty and limitations. He wanted a richer life for his daughter and refused to accept a young farmer like Tano. Despite his objections, Tano and Zina continued meeting whenever possible. They spent evenings beneath an old tree, talking about dreams and promising loyalty to one another. One afternoon, Mako received unexpected news from relatives living in the United States. They offered support, business opportunities, and a chance for a new beginning. The opportunity immediately captured Mako's attention. He saw America as the perfect escape from village life and decided his family would leave as soon as possible. When Zina heard the decision, her heart sank. She knew the move would separate her from Tano, perhaps for years, and she feared losing him forever. That evening, she secretly met Tano beneath their favorite tree. Tears filled her eyes as she struggled to explain what her father had decided. For several moments, neither spoke. The silence felt heavier than words as they faced the reality that their lives were about to change. Tano finally promised he would never forget her. He told her distance could separate their bodies, but never the love they carried within their hearts. Zina held his hands tightly and made the same promise. She vowed she would wait for him no matter how long the separation lasted. A few weeks later, the village gathered to watch Mako's family leave. Dust rose behind the departing vehicle, while many neighbors waved goodbye. Tano stood silently among the crowd. His expression remained calm, but inside it felt as if a part of his soul was leaving. As the vehicle disappeared beyond the horizon, Zina looked back through the window. Their eyes met one final time before distance swallowed everything. Days turned into weeks. Weeks slowly became months. Life continued in the village, yet Tano found himself carrying an emptiness he could not escape. His friends remained loyal and supportive. Biko constantly encouraged him, while Kato offered wisdom, Juma offered strength, and Sefu listened whenever pain overwhelmed him. One evening, Tano received a message from Zina. She described her new life in America and reassured him that her feelings remained unchanged. That message became his greatest treasure. He read it repeatedly during lonely nights, finding comfort in every word she had written. As years passed, communication became less frequent. Zina still cared deeply for him, but life in America grew busier and increasingly complicated. Meanwhile, many young villagers began leaving home in search of better opportunities abroad. Stories of success spread quickly through the community and inspired countless dreams. One night, after staring at Zina's latest photograph beneath the moonlight, Tano made a life-changing decision. He would find a way to reach America and reunite with her. Tano shared his decision with his friends during a quiet evening beside the village fire. The announcement shocked them, yet each understood the depth of his determination. Biko was the first to speak. He admitted he had secretly dreamed of leaving the village too, hoping to earn enough money for a better future. Keto listened carefully before nodding. He believed opportunities existed beyond their borders, though he warned that dangerous roads often hid behind beautiful promises. Juma supported the idea almost immediately. He was strong, fearless, and eager to challenge himself, believing hardship could lead to a brighter tomorrow. Seifu remained silent longer than everyone else. Eventually, he agreed to join them, though uncertainty lingered behind his smile and cautious words. Over the following weeks, the 5 friends gathered information from travelers, migrants, and strangers passing through nearby towns seeking work or transportation. Most legal options required money they did not possess. Every rejected application and closed door pushed them closer toward dangerous alternatives. One evening, they met a man named Rako. He claimed to know routes leading toward America through multiple countries and distant borders. Rako spoke confidently about success stories and opportunities waiting abroad. His promises sounded convincing, though something about his smile seemed unsettling. Despite their concerns, desperation slowly overcame caution. The friends pooled their savings, sold livestock, borrowed money, and prepared for the uncertain journey. Their families reacted with mixed emotions. Some encouraged them, while others begged them to stay, fearing stories they had heard about migration routes. Tano visited his mother before departure. She tried hiding her tears, but failed as she embraced him and prayed for his safety. The following morning, villagers gathered once more. Unlike celebrations, this farewell carried worry, fear, and unanswered questions about what awaited beyond the horizon. With small bags and determined hearts, the 5 friends climbed into a crowded vehicle carrying migrants from several neighboring regions. The journey began peacefully enough. Roads stretched endlessly before them, while excitement briefly overshadowed the dangers that everyone knew existed. Days later, they reached unfamiliar territory where smugglers controlled transportation. Armed men monitored travelers closely and demanded obedience without hesitation. The atmosphere changed immediately. Fear replaced excitement as migrants realized they were no longer travelers, but vulnerable people trapped inside uncertain circumstances. Rako collected additional payments, claiming unexpected expenses had appeared. Many protested, yet armed guards quickly silenced anyone questioning his demands. Tano noticed frightened families among the migrants. Mothers protected children, while elderly travelers struggled to keep pace through exhausting conditions. One afternoon, scorching heat covered the landscape. Endless sand stretched across the horizon, signaling their arrival at the edge of a vast desert. The desert felt merciless. Each step demanded strength, and every hour drained energy, while the burning sun punished anyone exposed beneath it. Several migrants collapsed during the crossing. Some recovered after rest, while others remained motionless, reminding everyone how fragile survival truly was. One night, exhausted travelers gathered around a small fire. Tano stared at Zina's photograph and imagined finally seeing her again. Meanwhile, Seifu quietly watched the group. Hidden fears grew inside him as the harsh realities of the journey shattered expectations and tested loyalties. Far ahead lay greater dangers, unknown betrayals, and impossible choices. Yet the five friends continued forward, unaware that their bond would soon face its darkest trial. The desert crossing grew harsher with every passing day. The friends had already traveled farther than they had ever imagined, yet America still felt impossibly distant. Many migrants began losing hope. Their bodies weakened from hunger and exhaustion, while fear followed them like a shadow through every difficult step. Tano refused to surrender. Whenever doubt entered his mind, he remembered Zina's face and the promise they had made beneath the old village tree. Biko often used humor to lift spirits. Even during hardship, he found ways to make others smile, helping the group endure unbearable conditions. Kato remained observant and careful. He constantly studied their surroundings, watching for danger and warning the others whenever trouble appeared nearby. Juma became the group's protector. He carried supplies, supported weaker travelers, and often placed the safety of others above his own comfort. Seifu, however, continued changing. The journey's pressure affected him deeply, and fear slowly replaced the loyalty that once defined his character. After weeks in the desert, the migrants reached a crowded camp controlled by criminal traffickers who demanded additional money before allowing anyone forward. Those unable to pay faced threats and violence. Families cried desperately, while armed men treated human lives as little more than merchandise. The friends surrendered nearly everything they had left. Their savings disappeared quickly, leaving them dependent upon strangers whose intentions remained unclear. Several nights later, gunfire erupted near the camp. Panic spread instantly as migrants ran in every direction, searching for safety and protection. During the chaos, Juma helped rescue a frightened child separated from her mother. His bravery inspired others despite the terrifying situation surrounding them. The following morning revealed heartbreaking losses. Some migrants had vanished during the confusion, while others suffered injuries requiring immediate medical attention. Tano began to realize the true cost of the journey. Every mile forward seemed to demand pain, sacrifice, and pieces of their humanity. Eventually, smugglers transported them toward the coast. Rumors spread that the next stage involved crossing dangerous waters aboard overcrowded boats. When they reached the shoreline, fear filled the air. The vessel waiting before them looked old, unstable, and dangerously overloaded with passengers. Many travelers hesitated, but turning back seemed impossible. They boarded silently, placing their lives in the hands of fate and uncertainty. The sea journey quickly became a nightmare. Massive waves crashed against the boats, while terrified passengers prayed through long nights of darkness. A violent storm struck without warning. Thunder roared overhead as water poured across the deck, threatening to drag everyone into the raging sea. People screamed and clung desperately to anything stable. Several passengers were swept overboard before anyone could reach them in time. Amid the chaos, Tano helped pull strangers to safety. His courage kept others alive, even as the storm tested every limit of endurance. When daylight finally arrived, survivors discovered the boat had suffered severe damage. Many supplies were gone, leaving everyone even more vulnerable. The journey continued through multiple countries and hidden routes. Every border brought new dangers, corrupt officials, and smugglers demanding additional payments. As pressure mounted, Seifu secretly began communicating with traffickers. Fear and selfish survival instincts pushed him toward choices he once would have rejected. One evening, he betrayed the group's plans in exchange for promised protection. None of the others suspected the danger quietly approaching them. While Tano dreamed of reuniting with Zina, betrayal moved closer with every passing hour, preparing to change all their lives forever.
The final stage of the journey began beneath a cold night sky. The friends were exhausted, but America finally seemed closer than ever before. Tano felt hope returning after months of suffering. Every painful step appeared worthwhile because he believed he would soon see Zina again. Unbeknownst to the others, Sefu's secret agreement with traffickers had already set a dangerous trap into motion ahead of them. As the group moved through a remote crossing route, armed criminals suddenly emerged from the darkness and surrounded the migrants without warning. Fear spread instantly. People dropped their belongings and raised trembling hands while the criminals searched everyone for money and valuables. The attackers separated several migrants from the crowd. Among those captured were Biko and Sefu, who were dragged toward nearby vehicles. Juma immediately wanted to fight back, but Kato restrained him. The armed men greatly outnumbered them, making resistance almost certain death. Tano refused to abandon his friends. Despite the danger, he quietly followed the kidnappers, determined to find a way to help. Hidden behind rocks and bushes, he watched carefully. That was when he overheard something that shattered his trust completely. One trafficker mentioned Sefu's name and laughed about their arrangements. Tano suddenly realized his friend had betrayed them all. The discovery felt like a knife through his heart. Yet, even then, anger could not erase years of friendship and shared memories. While the criminals argued among themselves, Tano created a risky distraction. The plan gave Biko and Sefu an opportunity to escape. Gunshots erupted across the area. Migrants scattered in panic, while Tano led his friends through darkness toward temporary safety. After several exhausting hours, the group finally stopped. There, Sefu broke down and confessed everything through tears and overwhelming guilt. He admitted that fear had controlled him. He believed helping traffickers would increase his chances of survival and reaching America. Biko reacted with anger. Juma nearly attacked him. Kato stood silent, unable to understand how their trusted friend had fallen so far. Tano listened quietly before speaking. His voice carried disappointment, but also compassion. He reminded Sefu that true redemption required actions, not words. The next morning, the friends continued toward the border. Although forgiveness remained difficult, they agreed to stay united until the journey ended. Hours later, disaster struck again. Border patrol units appeared unexpectedly, forcing migrants to flee through rough terrain filled with hazards. During the desperate escape, Sefu slipped near a steep ravine. He cried for help as loose ground crumbled beneath him. Without hesitation, Tano rushed forward. Ignoring the danger, he grabbed Sefu's arm and struggled desperately to pull him back. The effort succeeded, but tragedy followed immediately. The unstable ground collapsed beneath Tano, sending him crashing down the rocky slope. His friends raced toward him. When they finally reached his side, they found him badly injured and growing weaker with every breath. Tears filled their eyes as Tano spoke his final words. He asked them to live honest lives and never abandon one another again. Days later, Biko, Kato, Juma, and Sefu reached America, carrying Tano's photograph and the weight of his sacrifice within their hearts. When Zina learned the truth, she wept while holding Tano's picture. He never reached her arms, but his love reached her forever.